Next up, we've got a fun one. The title of this panel is "Fuck It, We'll Do It Live." Web3 meets live events. Hope I'm allowed to curse here. We're going for it. So the title says it all. Another major aspect of Web3 music's future will be how it connects to live events. Let's hear from several experts on this subject about how that fabric is being developed. So please welcome to the stage Tony Mugavero, Brad Serling, and will be moderated by David Roberge. I hope I'm pronouncing that. Thanks so much, guys. I'll hand it over to you.
Thanks, Brooke. We are back and want to welcome everybody to the Fuck It, We'll Do It Live Web3 meets live events panel. And from here on out, we'll try to keep it G-rated, but we're having a great conversation before we jumped on here. It's a panel that I'm super excited about, having a background coming from live events. This to me is a really exciting topic to try to tackle. I'm joined by Tony Mugavero from rad.live, Brad Serling from nugs.net, two top minds in what's going on in the music space and blockchain and all things that are Web3. So I'm excited that we're going to jump in and sort of tackle things concerning live content, the different approaches, all that Web3 really brings between social tokens, utility we'll talk about, collaborations, how the fan and artist relationship can really be deepened through the technology that we're going to talk about. So we're going to dive into it, and we'll hear from Brad, we'll hear from Tony. And really, I think I want to give an opportunity to both of them, talk a little bit about what they're doing and, what they see, with live events, where do they fit in, and what can we expect? So I think we'll go to Brad first.
Thanks for having me. Nice to be here. We were just talking before we started here that the challenge or the opportunity is that we have all these fans gathering every night. Like next week, for example, 55,000 people gathering at Dodger Stadium to see Dead & Company. That's been going on for years in the concert business. And now we have the opportunity of giving them content in a better way. What we have been doing started out just fan plays a show, we let the fan buy a download of that show, buying MP3s. That we started 25 years ago. Then we started streaming the show live. You could pay 20 bucks, 30 bucks, even 50 bucks to watch it in 4K, watch it live as it's happening. Then you could start subscribing and get every note your favorite band is playing live. So now we're in this position where there's an entirely new means of distribution, means of monetization, means of collecting, and I think most importantly, means of congregating. And the challenge, and what I'd love to talk about with you guys today is, how do we do that? How do we merge those worlds so that the fan who's actually going to the show gets, some access to an entirely new world where there's going to be a continued stream of content dropped to them over time?
No, and that's a great question. I think we all agree that there's going to be a plethora of creative content created, but how do we connect the dot to the fan? And what does that look like? Tony, do you have any thoughts on how we can maybe overcome those challenges and bridge the gap?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, there's a lot of education that goes into this, and we've been moving into this world of digital, marrying that up with in real life, whether that's, building your following digitally so that you can have a successful live event, or pairing those two things up where there's a live event and a live stream. And so, over time, the new generation of creators and fans have been embracing that natively, but there's still a big educational process that has to go into that, and a whole new set of tools that have to be developed. So, we've tried to spend a lot of time building creator and artist tools, but then also, like, what ultimately does that mean in this new world for them as artists? And especially with Web3, you get all of these benefits, like as an artist, immediate payouts and clarity on the revenue splits, and there's no kind of black boxes. And I think there's a bigger challenge on the fan side. If you tell an artist they're going to get paid immediately because of a smart contract, they'll love that, instead of getting paid 6 months from now and getting pennies on the dollar. From a fan perspective, there's a lot more education there, because they see Web3 as JPEGs getting flipped for $250,000, and they just can't wrap their head around that. And as we were talking about a little bit earlier, letting people know that their image that they've purchased as an NFT can also act as their ticket to a live event and their entry into a private Discord chat with the artist, or it becomes an access token as well as a piece of art. And it can have music attached to it, it can have visuals attached to it, it can have a ticket attached to it, all from one entry. And so, yeah, I mean, the user experience and the kind of onboarding flow will be something that has to be solved across various different fronts, whether that's in real life events or what that means digitally. So we're focused more on the digital side of things and how we can provide tools for creators. But that's an obvious complement to what's happening in real life.
Yeah, and you touched on, so it's interesting. First, the music NFT can't really be defined at this point, and it shouldn't be, because it's so many different things, and that's the beauty of the technology as it relates to music as art and what the potential is. But I think you touched on something that we were talking about before, and Brad mentioned as one of the challenges is, when fans, consumers hear the word NFT, they can sometimes run, away, or have not, blank face, or have been rugged, or any of those things. And I think if we maybe approach it as tokens and talk about it in terms of the access and what you get from sort of that membership approach, I do think that resonates with music fans. There's been fan clubs, traditional, digital. Not to say that that's the approach here, but I think in terms of the storytelling that we all have to weave within whether it's, Tony talking about his platform and what it does and the story behind it. Storytelling is really important in Web3, no matter if you're a creator or if you're a technologist. And I think we have a job to control the narrative a little bit and find something that is palatable and makes sense and is easy for fans to view this as an extension of something they're already doing. And as sort of live event providers, promoters, producers, is wanting to amplify that experience and amplify it through the technology. But to Brad's point, how do we let people know about it? And how do we make them comfortable with it? And what are the means to do that? And I think the more that festivals and individual artists experiment with it, and the more that it happens in real time, we'll be able to talk about that. But there is a patience in this, because it's a long game. And I think, it's not for the weary. Another thing we talked about was, the slower than preferred adoption to some of these new technologies in music. But I think we have an opportunity to do something different here, because there is a lot of excitement around it. And I think if the right use cases come to light, we'll see some super exciting stuff. And I'm excited, to see what, the fans do. I'm involved in a project called Superfest, and the NFT is you're each a co-founder of a live event. And as a music fan, you're going to be building the live event. So we're starting to see some examples of different utilization. We talk about utility around live music. And I think the more that we can get fans to sort of experience all about it, everything scales, everything grows. Just a lot of, I think, room for experimentation right now. But no doubt we do have challenges.
Yeah, I think a lot of it too will be driven from the artists. It was classic chicken and egg when you're talking about content marketplaces and creators and fans, and convincing fans as a business is harder thing than an artist convincing their fans. And so, you know, we're trying to lean harder on the artist side just to help with that education. You know, Brad was saying, get John Mayer to post something out on Instagram about something. It's like, you know, it's harder to get them to do it. But if, you know, you see Steve Aoki's out there running around, you know, at shows showing his NFTs to the crowd. And so there's something starting to happen there that the artists are driving a little bit of that conversation. I think that can help enormously with adoption. They're ultimately the influencer. And if the fan sees that they're doing something, they'll want to do it too.
Well, there is a reluctance at least on the part of the global touring artists, like the Metallicas and Pearl Jams and Springsteens of the world, that, you know, for years we've been releasing every note they play live. But historically, what brought those artists to Nugsnet was really a reaction to technology instead of a proactive stance. You know, Metallica came to us to start releasing shows because of the whole Napster situation, where, you know, they famously blew up and testified in Congress, and it was, you know, not exactly the greatest PR move. But as a response to that, they came to me and said, hey, we want to start releasing every note we play. So, which ended up being great. And now we've been doing that for almost 20 years. But when it comes to NFTs, again, it's one of those things where, of course, eventually they'll do something, but they don't want to be the poster child for, you know, massive global touring band cashing in on the, you know, Web3 gold rush. And I hear the same thing from Pearl Jam. You know, same thing from Fish, Fish is actually the most proactive artist that I work with in terms of embracing technology. That's why we launched Live Fish with them 20 years ago. You know, so tonight Fish is playing live. You can watch it live. You can get the show. You can subscribe, but they're not ready to jump in to Web3 world because primarily they don't want to be seen as, you know, chasing a gold rush or exploiting their fans, or, you know, and this is a band that's so proactive in their embracing of technology. It's, you know, I feel like my role is to suss out all the noise and get to like the real kernel of what's going to provide value to fans. Because that's the common link with all the bands that work with Nugsnet, is what they're doing is providing value to fans. And of course the money is there, but that's not the motivating factor. You know, it's Bruce Springsteen isn't releasing, like we just put out a Bruce show from 81. We're exploiting the Bruce archives, but to serve the fans. It's not because Bruce needs the money or Sony needs the money. It's, you know, it's doing right by fans. So how do we take these new technologies and make it a super serve the fan the way we have been with every other distribution method over the last 25 years?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's a good question. I had a conversation with somebody the other day who runs a music NFT platform. And, you know, there's, you know, probably 30, 40 different music NFT platforms, and they're all you know, working together to serve the entire Web3 music ecosystem, but they all also have to figure out and carve out their little niche. And it was interesting because the approach was a little bit around, you know, what we talked about, getting people to understand what an NFT is. And for an artist, it might be that they see it potentially, or maybe they can see it potentially as another medium, and a medium that's more like a digital pressing. And with that digital pressing, you're then able to attach additional value and content to it that maybe you can't do through the current distribution models that they're already deploying. So it's about layering on top, using the technology to layer on top of what they're already doing, not necessarily reinventing the wheel, and not, to Brad's point, it coming from a cash grab mindset. But we have to also create the fan demand for that and have fans yearning for those same things. And I think we'll find that inflection point. And what I find, you know, fascinating around what Tony's doing, because they're sort of attacking different silos within what we would call the elements of a metaverse, with AR and VR and live and premium content. You know, what are you seeing, you know, coming from an artist perspective about what they want you guys to be able to do and connect that?
Yeah, I mean, I think our opportunity as a platform has been to provide the tools for creators to leverage new technologies. And so, you know, whether that's creating them as a hologram, as volumetric video that will turn into, you know, something in augmented reality on a mobile device, or, you know, changing how they get paid using smart contracts. And at the end of the day, consumers, you know, fans and creators really don't care about the underlying technology as much as, does this make their lives better? Does it make them look cool? You know, does it? And so we've tried to present things as much as possible through that lens, as opposed to saying, you know, leading with technical language first. And really, as in our conversations with, on the creator side in particular, as soon as you start to tell people that, you know, they'll get paid immediately, they make more of the money, and it's a direct connection to their fan, instead of you know, essentially having a consumer listen to their song on Spotify, and then Spotify takes their cut, and then the content aggregator takes their cut, and then the label takes their cut, and then eventually the artist gets their money. You know, the direct connection on the artist side and for the fans resonates really well. And from an educational perspective on the fan side, letting people know that they're going to have more access to the artist. They're going to get invites to the show. They're going to own something that's actually valuable, and not a piece of content that's being rented to them. And then the platform can just take away at any point, right? Like, going through presenting things in that way to people so that it's a point of value and making their lives better and easier is how Rad has tried to approach, you know, presenting that value. And we're just doing that not only through smart contracts, but supporting different content types, and, you know, trying to embrace the future. And, you know, we were talking a little bit about this before we started, but, you know, we started building in immersive content in like 2014, and now the metaverse is starting to happen. You know, we had to wait it out. I've been in Bitcoin since 2012 and playing around with smart contracts and content since 2017. We as a platform have been doing that, and even then it was a little early for everybody. You know, we could get a meeting with every innovation committee at every major studio and, you know, and label, and they were happy to learn about it. But at the end of the day, you know, in 2017, 2018, they weren't ready for it. And then, you know, fast forward to today, and now everybody's like, oh, hey, remember you were telling us about blockchain and content in 2017, like maybe we should have that conversation now.
Yeah, now everybody wants to be at the front of the line, you know?
Yeah. So it's been interesting to see, like, we've been trying to just think, like, get technology out of the way, and like, how can we make people's lives better? But it is really a transformational moment in terms of tech, and just letting as many people know that as possible.
Yeah, and you mentioned, though, it's an opportunity for, you know, when we talk about the fan-artist relationship, that's the thing that's going to come out of Web3 the most, whether we're talking about live events, we're talking about, you know, recorded music and how people experience that. It's that to me is the most exciting, and where artists can really tap into the technology. But to your point, we have to keep it simple. Both for the artist, for the consumer. I think, you know, Brad's example of, you know, sort of having a Web 2.5 experience inside a stadium when he's trying to interact with something is important. You know, all of that stuff has to happen in the background. You know, the people who want to know how it works, they'll ask those questions second level and third level, but it's, what does it do for me? What problem does it solve? How does it make my life easier? How does it make this experience better? And then it's thinking about why I should do this. And I think, you know, the more we get creative and the more options that are out there, you know, music fans will coalesce around these experiences. I'm excited to see, you know, some of these upcoming festivals that are taking place, and I know Autograph will be at Electric Forest. I know, you know, Hangout Fest is doing something. Bonnaroo has obviously a connection to Superfest, which is the NFT I mentioned before that they're backing. So there's a connection to, in real life experience there. Webstock, ChillRx, really starting to get into some exciting stuff. And yeah, I think we all agree that, artists have always led the way in terms of the creative movements. And as, service providers and fans of music, our jobs are to, rally around that and create platforms and pathways for them to realize that. So it's been awesome to be on the panel with you guys. Really impressed with both what you guys are doing. I want to thank Unmutable and Mitchell and Elaine and Brooke and everybody who's put, this 3-day event together. It's been awesome. And I want to just say thank you. Any parting words we can sign off?
Well, thanks for having us.
Yeah, much appreciated. I feel like we just scratched, like this wasn't even the beginning. I mean, we there's a lot to talk about.
Appetizers.
That's right. Yeah, it's a great combo though. Certainly, I appreciate it.